The Louboutin heel snapped first. Aisha Babalola heard the crack before she felt the impact. Tyrell Washington's boot connecting with her ribs, sending her sprawling across the polished marble of the Upgujong Rodeo boutique. Her shopping bags scattered like corpses, spilling silk scarves and designer sunglasses across the floor. "You think I wouldn't recognize you?" Tyrell's voice carried across the luxury store, turning heads. He was heavier than she remembered, his jawline softer, but his eyes held the same cold entitlement that had once convinced her he loved her. "Walking around in your expensive shit like you earned it?" Aisha's hand pressed against her ribs. The pain was white-hot, stealing her breath. She tried to stand, but his boot came down on her wrist, pinning it to the marble. "Tyrell, please. Please." He laughed, grinding his heel into her wrist until she felt something pop. "That's what you said when I left you, right? Please don't go. Please help me." He leaned down, his face inches from hers. "Where's that Korean sugar daddy now? Or did he already get bored of whatever broke bitch sob story you sold him?" The security guards stood frozen, two Korean men in their 20s, uncertain whether to intervene in a fight between foreigners. A crowd was forming, phones out, recording. Aisha's free hand fumbled for her clutch, for her phone, but Tyrell saw it and kicked the bag across the boutique floor. It hit a display case with a crack. "Oh no," he said, crouching beside her now, his hand tangling in her hair. "You don't get to call for help. Not after you ruined my fucking life." "I never." Aisha choked on the words as he yanked her head back, exposing her throat. "I never said anything about you. To anyone. Liar." Spittle hit her face. "My family disowned me. My job, my reputation, everything gone. Because you went crying to someone about how I mistreated you." He released her hair, only to backhand her across the face. Her head snapped sideways, and she tasted blood. The crowd gasped, but no one moved. No one ever moved. Tyrell stood, adjusting his suit jacket like he'd just finished a business meeting. "You know what? I should have finished what I started 4 years ago. Should have made sure you and that bastard baby." The boutique doors exploded inward. Not opened. Exploded. The glass didn't shatter. It simply ceased to exist as 8 men in black suits materialized in the entrance like shadows gaining mass. Tyrell's words died in his throat. The men didn't run. Didn't shout. They moved with the synchronized precision of a military unit, fanning out to block every exit, every window, every possible escape route. In less than 5 seconds, the boutique became a cage. And then Kang Jihun walked in. He didn't rush. Didn't need to. He moved like he had all the time in the world, because in this city, in his territory, he did. Aisha saw him through her blurred vision. Her husband, dressed in a charcoal Tom Ford suit that cost more than some people's cars, his shirt unbuttoned just enough to reveal the phoenix tattoo rising from the flames inked across his throat. His left sleeve was rolled to the elbow, exposing the dragon that coiled from wrist to shoulder. Scales rendered in such detail, they seemed to shift with each flex of his arm. His right arm bore a tiger, frozen mid-pounce, all coiled muscle and bared fangs. But it was his hands that made Tyrell take an involuntary step backward. Across Jihun's knuckles, in bold Hanja characters, on the right and left hand. King. Death. Jihun's eyes found Aisha first. They always found her first. And in that microsecond, she saw his expression cycle through 3 emotions. Relief that she was alive, rage that she was hurt, and calculation as he decided how many pieces he was going to leave Tyrell in. Then his gaze shifted to Tyrell, and the temperature in the boutique dropped. "You," Jihun said in English, his accent barely there, his voice conversational. "Put your hands on my wife." Tyrell tried to salvage his courage. "Your wife. This lying bitch is your." He didn't finish. Jihun moved with the speed of a snake strike. One moment standing in the doorway, the next with his tattooed hand wrapped around Tyrell's throat, lifting him off the ground with one arm like he weighed nothing. Tyrell's feet kicked uselessly. His hands clawed at Jihun's wrist, at the dragon tattoo that seemed to tighten around his throat. "Let me explain something," Jihun said, his voice still calm, still pleasant. "Everyone in Seoul knows who she is. Who I am. Which means you came here knowing exactly what you were doing. Knowing exactly what the consequences would be." I didn't." Tyrell's face was turning purple. "Don't lie. It's disrespectful." Jihun's grip tightened fractionally. "You came here with intent. With anger. With the specific goal of hurting her. Which means you came here to die." Through her haze of pain, Aisha watched her husband hold her abuser like a child holds a broken toy, casual, detached, deciding whether to fix it or throw it away. She'd seen Jihun angry before. Seen him violent. This was his world, his life, the underground empire he'd built with blood and strategy. But she'd never seen this. This was personal. Jehun. Her voice came out as a rasp, and immediately his attention shifted back to her, his expression softening for a heartbeat. Yobo, he said gently, close your eyes. Don't. She tried to sit up, and her broken ribs sent lightning through her chest. She gasped, doubling over. Jehun's jaw tightened. He looked back at Tyrell, whose face was now approaching blue, and made a decision. He lowered him, not gently but controlled, and released him. Tyrell collapsed, gasping, clutching his throat. Jehun turned to one of his men and spoke in rapid Korean. Get a doctor here. Private. Now. And clear this building. I want every phone, every camera, every piece of security footage. No one talks about this. Two men moved immediately toward the crowd of onlookers, who suddenly remembered they had places to be. Others began systematically collecting phones with polite but absolute authority. Within 90 seconds, the boutique was empty except for Jehun's people, Aisha and Tyrell. Jehun crossed to Aisha in 3 strides and knelt, his hands hovering over her face, her neck, her body like he was afraid touching her would cause more damage. Where? His voice had lost all its menace. This was the voice he used only with her, soft, almost vulnerable. Ribs, Aisha whispered. He kicked me. My wrist, I think it's broken. And my face. She didn't finish because Jehun's expression changed. Not to rage, that would have been easier. To something colder. Something final. He stood, and when he turned back to Tyrell, the man was trying to crawl toward the exit. One of Jehun's men, Min Yoongi, his second in command, a scarred man with dead eyes, placed a boot on Tyrell's back, pinning him. I'm calling the police. Tyrell shouted, his voice hoarse. This is assault. You can't. You're American, Jehun interrupted, walking slowly toward him. In Seoul. In my city. Let me explain how this works. He crouched, getting eye level with Tyrell. The police captain? He owes me 3 favors. The district prosecutor? I paid for his daughter's wedding. The immigration office? I own the building they work in. He tilted his head. There is no one coming to save you. There's only me deciding how you die. I'm sorry. Tyrell's bravado shattered completely. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know she was married to. You knew. Jehun's tattooed hand, the one with across the knuckles, reached out and almost gently touched Tyrell's face. You saw her shopping. Saw her clothes, her jewelry, her confidence. And you got angry. Because the woman you broke, the woman you stole from and abandoned, had the audacity to rebuild. To be happy. To move on without you. Tyrell was crying now. Please. I was angry. I made a mistake. You made several. Jehun stood. Yoongi, take him to the Mapo warehouse. The cold room. Make him comfortable. No. Tyrell struggled as 2 men hauled him to his feet. Wait. You can't do this. Watch me. I'll tell the embassy. The news. Everyone. Jehun smiled then, a razor's edge wrapped in charm. By all means. Tell them about how you assaulted a woman in a public place. Tell them about the 9 other women across 3 countries you've scammed. Tell them about the 31 million, one you stole from my wife when she was pregnant with your child. Please. I'd love to see that conversation. Tyrell went white. How did you? I'm very thorough. Jehun nodded to his men, and they began dragging Tyrell toward the back exit. His protests faded into the distance, punctuated by the sound of a door slamming. Then there was only silence and the sound of Aisha's ragged breathing. Jehun returned to her, and this time he didn't hesitate. He lifted her with devastating care, one arm beneath her knees, the other supporting her back. Against his chest, she could feel his heart pounding, the only sign he wasn't as calm as he appeared. Hospital, he said quietly. Then we talk. You can't kill him, Aisha whispered against his shirt. Jehun, please. He's not worth it. We'll see. In the back of his Mercedes, bulletproof glass, soundproof interior, more tank than car, Aisha let herself break. Not the silent tears she'd shed on the boutique floor, but real sobs that shook her entire body and made her broken ribs scream. Jehun held her through it, his tattooed arms a fortress, his chin resting on her head. He didn't speak. Didn't try to comfort her with empty words. Just held her while she fell apart. For years, Aisha finally gasped. 4 years of therapy, of healing, of convincing myself I was strong. And he destroyed it all in 3 minutes. No. Jehun's voice was steel wrapped in velvet. He didn't destroy anything. He reminded you that monsters exist. That's different. I wanted to kill him. The admission came out raw. When he was standing over me, kicking me, I wanted him dead. What does that make me? Human. Jehun tilted her face up gently with his tattooed fingers, the character on his knuckles framing her cheekbone. It makes you human, and alive, and fighting. I don't want to fight anymore. I'm so tired, Jihun. Then rest. I'll fight for you. The hospital was a private facility in Gangnam, the kind where the staff knew to look away when Kang Jihun arrived with an injured woman and 8 armed men. Within minutes, Aisha was in a private suite being examined by 3 specialists who'd been pulled from their homes. Diagnosis: 2 fractured ribs, a broken wrist, severe contusions to her face and throat, and a concussion. They wanted to keep her for 48 hours minimum. Jihun refused to leave her side. When a doctor suggested he wait outside during an exam, he simply looked at the man until he swallowed and said, "Or you can stay, of course." Once they were alone, Jihun sat on the edge of her hospital bed, his hand covering hers, his thumb drawing those small circles on her wrist that always calmed her. "I need you to tell me everything," he said quietly. "Not the edited version you gave me 4 years ago. Everything." Aisha's throat tightened. "Why?" "Because I need to understand what I'm avenging. Because I need to know how deep this goes. Because," his voice cracked slightly, "because I need to know how to make sure you never feel like this again." She looked at him, really looked at him. This man who ruled Seoul's underground with calculated brutality, who had more blood on his hands than she could imagine, who could order someone's death with a phone call. And all she saw in his eyes was fear. He was afraid of losing her. "Okay," she whispered. "But it's going to hurt." "I know." Aisha took a shaky breath and began. "I met Tyrell 6 years ago. I was 22. Fresh to Seoul, teaching English at a hagwon in Gangnam. My mother had just died back in Lagos, cancer, and I couldn't afford to go to the funeral. Korea was supposed to be my fresh start, the place where I could be someone new." Jihun listened without interrupting, his hand steady on hers. Tyrell was at an expat meetup in Itaewon. He was charming, American, said he worked in international consulting, whatever that meant. He had money, or seemed to. Nice clothes, expensive watch. He made me feel special. Like I was worth pursuing. "You were," Jihun said softly. "You are." I didn't know it then. Aisha's smile was bitter. "We dated for 3 months. He took me to nice restaurants, bought me gifts. Small things at first, flowers, chocolates. Then bigger, a necklace, a handbag. I thought he loved me. When did it change? The night I told him I was pregnant." Aisha's free hand drifted to her stomach unconsciously. "We were at that restaurant in Gangnam, the French place with the river view. I'd bought a little onesie, wrapped it in a box. I thought he'd be happy. Scared maybe, but happy." Her voice broke. His face, it was like I'd told him I had a disease. He said, "Are you trying to trap me?" I didn't understand. We'd talked about the future, about marriage. But he said I was being irresponsible. Selfish. That if I really loved him, I'd take care of it. Jihun's jaw clenched, but he stayed silent. I refused. I wanted the baby. I wanted a family. So he changed tactics. He got sweet again. Apologized. Said he was just shocked that we'd figure it out together. He asked to borrow money. Just 15 million won for a business deal. It'll triple in a month, and then we'll be set for the baby. You gave it to him. Every one I had. 2 years of savings. Aisha's tears came faster now. Then 2 weeks later, another emergency. His mother was sick. 8 million won for medical bills. I maxed out my credit cards. Then he asked for my bank account information to help manage our finances better, since I was going to be a mother and needed to focus on my health. He cleaned you out. Down to the last one. And then he left. Aisha's voice went hollow. I woke up one morning, 6 months pregnant, and he was gone. The apartment lease hadn't been paid in 3 months. Eviction notice on the door. A note that said, "You were fun, but I can't do the dad thing. Take care of yourself." Jihun's hand tightened on hers, his knuckles white, the Hanja characters stark against his skin. I lost everything in 3 days. My job. The Hagwon fired me when they found out I was an unmarried pregnant foreign teacher. My apartment. My savings. My dignity. I called my family in Lagos, but I was too ashamed to tell them the truth. Just said work was great, Seoul was wonderful, everything was fine. Where did you go? Nowhere. Everywhere. I slept in subway stations. 24-hour cafes when I could scrape together enough won for a coffee. PC bangs. Public bathrooms. Aisha's breath hitched. I ate from convenience store trash bins. Wore the same clothes for weeks. Tried to hide my growing stomach under baggy shirts I stole from donation bins. Aisha. I went into labor in Hongdae Station bathroom. 2 in the morning. I was alone, bleeding, screaming. A janitor found me and called an ambulance. But by the time they got there, her voice broke completely. My baby was already gone. Zuri. I was going to name her Zuri. It means beautiful in Swahili. For a long moment, The only sound was hospital machines beeping and Aisha's ragged breathing. Then Jehun's forehead pressed against their joined hands, and she felt wetness on her knuckles. He was crying. Her deadly, powerful husband who ruled an empire of violence was crying for a baby he'd never met, for a woman he'd only known in her aftermath. They wouldn't let me see her, Aisha whispered. Said it was better that way. Medical waste, they called her. My daughter was medical waste. I'm going to kill him. Jehun's voice was steady despite his tears. Slowly, painfully. I'm going to make him understand what he took from you. That won't bring her back. No, but it'll make me feel better. He lifted his head, and his eyes were red, but his expression was resolute. How did you survive? After the hospital? Barely. I was there for 2 weeks. No money, no insurance. A social worker told me a private benefactor paid my bills. I didn't know who. Didn't care. When they discharged me, I had nowhere to go. I was going to walk back to the subway. Back to nothing. And I found you. You were waiting outside the hospital. Like you knew. Aisha managed a small smile through her tears. You said your mother had died from domestic violence. That you hadn't been able to save her, but maybe you could save me. You looked like a ghost, Jehun said quietly. Skin and bones and eyes that had seen too much. You were wearing a hospital gown because you had no other clothes. Your hair was matted. You smelled like antiseptic and despair. And you were the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. Liar. Truth. His tattooed hand cupped her face. Because you were still standing. Still breathing. Still fighting. You'd lost everything. Your baby, your money, your home, your hope. And you were still here. That's not beauty. That's power. You offered me a job. At one of my legitimate businesses. Nothing illegal. A real salary. An apartment. A chance to rebuild. You asked for nothing in return. I asked for dinner. Jehun's mouth quirked. Once a week. So I could make sure you were eating. Selfish, really. And I fell in love with you over terrible jajangmyeon and your worst jokes. Aisha touched his face, tracing the phoenix on his neck. You saved me, Jehun. Not just from homelessness. From myself. From drowning. And now he's back. Jehun's expression hardened. After 4 years. After watching you build a foundation to help women like you. After seeing you heal and grow and become whole again. He comes back and puts his hands on you like you're still his property. Like you're still that broken girl in the subway. I'm not. I know. But he needed to see it. Needed to be reminded that he lost. That he threw away something precious and can never get it back. Jehun leaned forward until his forehead touched hers. What do you want me to do to him? I don't know, Aisha admitted. Part of me wants him dead. Wants to watch him suffer the way he made me suffer. But another part, the part you helped build, knows that won't heal anything. Won't bring Zuri back. Won't erase the last 6 years. Then we'll figure it out together. Jehun kissed her forehead. But first you rest. And I make some calls. What kind of calls? His smile was sharp. The productive kind. Over the next 12 hours, while Aisha slept under sedation, Kang Jehun made 16 phone calls and destroyed Tyrell Washington's life with surgical precision. Call 1, to a private investigator in the Philippines. Find every woman he's scammed. I want names, dates, amounts. I want their stories. Call 2, to his contact at the immigration office. Flag his passport. I want to know if he tries to leave the country. Call 3, to a tech specialist. I need everything. Bank records, email history, phone logs, social media messages. Every digital footprint he's ever made. Call 4, to his lawyer. Start building a case. Theft, fraud, abandonment, emotional abuse. I want enough to bury him legally even if we never file. By hour 6, the investigator called back. Boss, you're going to want to see this. He's got a pattern. 9 women across Manila, Bangkok, and Seoul. Same MO every time. Romance, manipulation, financial exploitation, abandonment. Send me everything. By hour 8, Jehun had a file 3 inches thick. Screenshots of Tyrell's messages to other women. Identical love letters copy-pasted with only the names changed. Bank transfers showing him draining accounts. Photos of him with different women at the same restaurants, proposing with the same ring he'd later pawned. By hour 10, Jehun knew about the fiancé, Park Seo-yeon, 24, daughter of Park Jin-woo, chairman of Daehan Construction. Engaged to Tyrell for 6 months. Wedding planned for next spring. By hour 12, Jehun had made his decision. When Aisha woke, groggy and hurting, Jehun was sitting beside her bed with a tablet and a look of grim satisfaction. What did you do? She asked immediately. Nothing yet. But I'm going to show you something, and then you're going to help me decide. He turned the tablet toward her. This is Tyrell's current fiancé. Park Seo-yeon, 24 years old. Sweet. Naive. He's been dating her for 8 months. They met at an expat business mixer. Aisha's stomach dropped. He's doing it again. Everything except the pregnancy. He's been borrowing money from her for 6 months. Currently into her for about 40 million won. Her father knows nothing. Tyrell convinced her to keep it secret, said he was embarrassed to ask for help, that it would hurt his pride. That's exactly what he told me. I know. Jehun swiped to another screen. These are the other 8 women I found. All foreign. All alone. All targeted when they were vulnerable. He has a type, women who won't have strong support systems, who can't easily report to police, who he can disappear on without consequences. Aisha felt sick. How much has he stolen total? Approximately 230 million won across 9 women. About 190,000 US dollars. Jehun's expression was cold. He's not a broken man making mistakes. He's a predator with a system. What do you want to do? That depends on you. Jehun set the tablet aside. I can kill him. Quietly, cleanly, permanently. No one will ever find the body. Or, his smile was dangerous. I can destroy him publicly. Expose everything. Ruin his reputation, his engagement, his life. Make him a cautionary tale. And if I want neither? Then I let him go, and we never speak of this again. Jehun took her hand. This is your choice, Yobo. Your revenge, your justice, your decision. I'll support whatever you want. Aisha stared at the tablet, at the smiling photo of Park Seo-yeon with Tyrell's arm around her shoulders, and felt something crystallize inside her. I want her to know, she said quietly. I want all of them to know. I want him exposed. Are you sure? It means your story becomes public too. Good. Aisha's voice was steady now. Let it be public. Let other women see what a predator looks like. Let them know they're not alone. Let them know they can survive. Jehun studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Okay. Then we do this smart. We do this brutal. And we make sure he never does this again. How? Leave that to me. What Jehun did next would be talked about in Seoul's underground for years. First, he created a burner social media account and posted a simple message. Has anyone dated Tyrell Washington? American, early 30s, works in consulting in Seoul. I think I'm being scammed. Within 3 hours, 9 women had responded. Within 6 hours, they'd formed a group chat. Within 12 hours, they'd compiled every screenshot, every bank transfer, every promise he'd made and broken. Jehun had his digital team package it professionally, a 40-page document with receipts, timelines, and testimonies. Then he sent it to 3 people, Park Seo-yeon, her father Chairman Park Jin-woo, and Tyrell's employer. He also sent copies to 3 major Korean news outlets with English services and 2 foreign press agencies. The bomb went off at 9 a.m. on a Wednesday. Park Seo-yeon called off the engagement via text. Don't ever contact me again. Her father made 1 phone call. By 10 a.m., Tyrell's employer had fired him for moral violations and fraud. By 11 a.m., every business connection in Seoul knew to blacklist him. By noon, Tyrell was trending on Korean Twitter, hashtag Tyrell Washington Scammer. By 2 p.m., international media had picked up the story. American conman targets foreign women in Seoul, 9 victims come forward. By 5 p.m., the Seoul Metropolitan Police had opened an investigation for fraud and theft. By 8 p.m., Tyrell was in a love motel in Hongdae, ironically, blocks from where Aisha had lost her baby, watching his life disintegrate in real time on his phone. His credit cards had been declined. His apartment lease terminated. His bank account frozen pending investigation. He tried to call Park Seo-yeon. Blocked. His employer. No answer. His mother in the U.S. She'd already seen the news. Don't call here again. At 9 p.m., there was a knock on his motel door. Tyrell opened it to find Min Yoongi standing there with 2 other men. Mr. Kong would like a word. They didn't drag him. Didn't force him. Just stood there. And Tyrell understood that he could either come voluntarily or involuntarily, and one option would hurt significantly more than the other. He came voluntarily. The warehouse in Mapo was exactly what it sounded like, a massive industrial space that Jehun used for legitimate shipping during the day and less legitimate activities at night. Tyrell was brought to a small office in the back, clean and well-lit, where Kong Jehun sat behind a desk like a CEO about to conduct a performance review. Sit, Jehun said. Tyrell sat. His hands were shaking. Jehun slid a document across the desk. This is a contract. Read it. Tyrell's eyes scanned the pages, his face going progressively paler. You stole 230 million won from 9 women, Jehun said conversationally. This contract requires you to pay back every one, plus 100 million in damages for emotional and psychological harm. Total, 330 million won. I don't have that kind of money. Tyrell's voice cracked. I know, which is why the contract includes a payment plan. You'll work for me at my construction sites. Standard labor wage, 2 million won per month. Minus living expenses for the dormitory housing and cafeteria meals I'll provide, 1 million won per month. That leaves you 1 million won per month toward your debt. Tyrell did the math, his face going white. That's 27 years. 27 and a half, actually. But I'm rounding down. Jehun leaned back. You can work off your debt in honest labor, or I can let my wife press criminal charges. With 9 victims and documented evidence, you're looking at 15 to 20 years in Korean prison. Your choice. This is slavery. This is justice. You stole from women who couldn't fight back. Now you work for a man who won't let you run. Jehun's smile was thin. Consider it a learning experience. And if I refuse, then you go to prison. And prison in Korea is very different from prison in America. Especially for foreigners convicted of crimes against women. Especially when the prosecutor is someone I have drinks with twice a month. Tyrell looked at the contract, at Jehun, at the 2 men standing by the door. He was trapped, and he knew it. There's one other option, Jehun said quietly. I could let my wife decide your fate. She's the real victim here. She could want you dead. She could want to watch you suffer. She could want things that would make my options look merciful. He leaned forward. Do you want me to ask her? Do you want to see what 4 years of healing disappear when she realizes she has the power to destroy you the way you destroyed her? No, Tyrell whispered. Then sign the fucking contract. Tyrell signed. 3 days later, Aisha was released from the hospital. Her ribs were still healing, her wrist in a cast, but she could walk, could breathe, could live. Jehun brought her home to their penthouse, and for the first time since the boutique, she felt safe. Is it over? She asked that night, standing on their balcony overlooking Seoul's glittering skyline. It's over, Jehun confirmed, his arms around her from behind. He's working at our Busan construction site. 12-hour days. Simple labor. Nothing dangerous, but nothing comfortable. He'll pay back everyone, and then he'll be free to leave Korea. How long? If he keeps working? 27 years. Aisha was quiet for a long moment. That's longer than I've been alive. Yes. Good. She turned in his arms to face him. Is that wrong? That I'm glad he's suffering? No. It's human. He hurt you. He hurt 9 other women. He deserves to understand consequences. Jehun's tattooed hands framed her face. But more importantly, are you okay? I don't know, Aisha admitted. I thought I'd feel different. Satisfied, maybe. But I just feel tired. Revenge doesn't heal. It just closes chapters. Then what does heal? Time. Love. Purpose. Jehun kissed her forehead. And you have all 3. 2 weeks later, Aisha stood before the media at a press conference for the New Dawn Foundation. Her wrist was still in a cast, faint bruises still visible on her throat, but she looked directly into the cameras. 2 weeks ago, I was assaulted in a public place by a man who once claimed to love me. A man who stole my money, my dignity, and ultimately my daughter's life. She paused, letting that sink in. I'm not sharing this for sympathy. I'm sharing this because I'm one of 9 women this man victimized. And I'm the lucky one. I survived. I rebuilt. I found love again. I found purpose. The room was silent except for camera shutters. But not everyone gets that chance. Not every woman has the resources or support to rebuild, which is why this foundation exists. Aisha gestured to the building behind her. New Dawn Center houses 50 women now. We provide shelter, job training, legal aid, therapy, and childcare. We help women who've been financially exploited by partners, women like me, find their way back to themselves. A reporter raised her hand. Mrs. Kong, how do you respond to people who say you're only able to do this because of your husband's wealth and influence? Aisha smiled. I'd say they're partially right. My husband's resources made this building possible. But the idea, the vision, the understanding of what these women need, that came from living it, from being one of them. Money builds buildings. Empathy builds sanctuary. Another reporter. Are you afraid your attacker will come back? No, because I'm not the woman he left broken 4 years ago. I'm not even the woman he attacked 2 weeks ago. I'm someone who's learned that survival isn't passive, it's active. It's choosing every day to fight, to heal, to help others fight and heal. Aisha's voice strengthened. He can't hurt me anymore. Because I'm not alone. None of us are. The press conference became national news. Within 48 hours, the foundation received $3 million in donations. Within a week, 6 more women had come forward about Tyrell, expanding the case. Within 2 weeks, Aisha received a letter. It was from Tyrell, smuggled out through a sympathetic guard, written on lined paper in cramped handwriting. Aisha, I know I don't deserve your time or your attention. I know sorry doesn't begin to cover what I did. But I need you to know that I think about you every day. About the baby. About what I took from you. I was a coward. I was selfish. I was broken and I broke you because it was easier than fixing myself. I told myself you'd be fine, that you were strong, that you'd figure it out. I never let myself imagine what happened after I left. I never let myself think about the reality of what abandoning a pregnant woman with no money actually meant. Now I know. Your husband made sure I know. He showed me pictures of every woman I hurt. Made me read their stories. Made me see what I did. I'm working construction now. Every day my body hurts. Every day I'm exhausted. And every day I think, this is nothing compared to what she survived. I had a choice. You didn't. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know that you won. You're alive and strong and doing something beautiful with your pain. And I'm here, paying for what I did, finally understanding that actions have consequences. I'm sorry about Zuri. I'm sorry I never said her name. I'm sorry I treated her like a problem instead of a person. I'm sorry I treated you like you were disposable. You weren't. You aren't. I hope you never think of me again. Tyrell. Aisha read the letter 3 times, sitting on her balcony as the sun set over Seoul. Jahun found her there an hour later, the paper still in her hands. He wrote to you, Jahun said, recognizing the cheap stationery. Yes. Do you want to respond? Aisha was quiet for a long moment, watching the city lights blink on one by one, thousands of lives unfolding in the sprawl below. Then she stood, walked to the edge of the balcony, and let the letter go. It caught the wind, tumbling through the air, becoming smaller and smaller until it disappeared into the Seoul night. No, she said simply. I don't. Jahun wrapped his arms around her from behind, his tattooed hands settling over her stomach, the same place where Zuri had once been. How do you feel? Free. Aisha leaned back against him. For the first time in 6 years, I feel completely free. Good. He kissed the side of her neck, right where the bruises had finally faded. That's all I ever wanted for you. They stood like that as the city breathed around them, 2 people who'd found each other in the wreckage of their separate hells and built something unbreakable. 3 months later, the New Dawn Foundation held its 6-month anniversary celebration. The building was packed, donors, residents, supporters, press. Aisha stood at the podium in an emerald dress, her hair in a crown of braids, her wrist finally free of its cast. 6 months ago, we opened our doors to 30 women. Today, we house 70. We've helped 18 women find jobs. 12 have reunited with children they'd lost custody of, or have started their own businesses. 23 are in therapy. All of them are survivors. She paused, scanning the crowd until her eyes found Jahun in the front row. He was dressed in all black, his tattoos on full display. No hiding who he was or what he represented. His men were scattered throughout the room, a visible security presence that somehow made everyone feel safer rather than threatened. But numbers don't tell the real story, Aisha continued. The real story is Mina, who left her abusive husband with nothing but her daughter and the clothes on their backs, who now works as a paralegal and is saving to buy her own apartment. A small woman in the 3rd row smiled through tears. The real story is Jennifer, who was trafficked from the Philippines and told she'd never be anything more than what her captors made her, who now runs our job training program and helps other women find their power. Another woman raised her hand in acknowledgement, her face proud. The real story is every woman in this room who was told she was broken, disposable, worthless, and who chose to believe something different, who chose to fight. Aisha's voice grew stronger. We're not victims. We're not even just survivors. We're architects. We're warriors. We're phoenixes rising from ashes that were meant to bury us. And this, she gestured to the building, the women, the future they were creating. This is our kingdom. The applause was thunderous. After the speeches, after the photos and the interviews and the handshakes, Aisha found a quiet corner in the foundation's garden. She was exhausted in the best way, the kind of tired that came from doing something meaningful. A voice startled her. Mrs. Kong? She turned to find a young woman, barely 20, with scared eyes and a fading bruise on her cheek. I'm sorry to bother you, but I need help. My boyfriend, he's been taking my money, and I'm pregnant, and I don't know what to do. Aisha's heart clenched. She saw herself 6 years ago in this girl's face. The fear, the shame, the desperate hope that someone would care. What's your name? Aisha asked gently. Yuki. Yuki, you're not bothering me. You're exactly where you need to be. Aisha took her hand. Come with me. Let me introduce you to some people who understand exactly what you're going through. As she led Yuki inside, towards safety and support and the beginning of her own Phoenix journey, Aisha caught Jehun's eye across the room. He nodded once, a silent acknowledgement of the cycle continuing, of pain transforming into purpose. That night, in their penthouse bedroom, Jehun found Aisha standing by the window, looking out at the city. Another one saved, he said, wrapping his arms around her waist. Another one fighting, Aisha corrected. I just showed her where the weapons are. Jehun's laugh was low and warm against her ear. You know I love you, right? Not because you're healed or perfect or whole, but because you're you, scarred and strong and stubborn in mine. Yours, Aisha agreed, turning in his arms. And you're mine, my dangerous king with a soft heart. Only for you. She traced the phoenix on his neck, the tattoo that matched the one hidden on her ribcage. Do you ever regret it? Saving that broken girl outside the hospital. Every day, Jehun said seriously. Aisha's breath caught. I regret not finding you sooner. Not saving you from that first night alone. Not being there when you needed someone most. His tattooed hands cupped her face, his knuckles impossibly gentle. But do I regret loving you? Building a life with you? Watching you transform your pain into power? Never. Not for a single second. Aisha kissed him then, deep and desperate and grateful. When they broke apart, she whispered, make love to me. Not because I'm broken or because I need saving, but because I'm whole and I choose you. Always, Jehun murmured against her lips. He lifted her, carrying her to their bed, and for the next hour there was nothing but skin and breath and whispered promises. His tattooed hands mapped every scar, every curve, every part of her that had survived. And she touched him back, this man who'd built an empire on fear, but who trembled when she said his name. Afterward, wrapped in silk sheets in each other, Aisha asked, what happened to Tyrell? Really? Jehun was quiet for a moment, his fingers tracing patterns on her bare shoulder. He's still working. Busan construction site. He's actually not terrible at it. My foreman says he works hard, doesn't complain. Sends everyone he earns to the victim fund we set up. Does he know I'm using that money for the foundation? No. I didn't tell him. Didn't want him to think he was contributing something good. Let him think it's just debt repayment. Aisha smiled against his chest. You're vindictive. I'm thorough. Jehun kissed her hair. He has 26 years left. Maybe he'll become a better person. Maybe he won't. But either way, he's not our problem anymore. No, Aisha agreed. He's just a chapter. A painful one. But chapters end. And new ones begin. Jehun shifted to look at her, his expression serious. Speaking of which, the foundation needs to expand. We're turning away women every week. I found a property in Itaewon, near the U.S. Army base. Lots of foreign women in that area who might need help. How big? 15,000 square meters. Could house 100 women easily, plus childcare facilities, job training center, legal offices. Aisha sat up, the sheet pooling at her waist. Jehun, that's massive. That's expensive. I'm aware. I'm buying it tomorrow. He pulled her back down against him. This is what we do now. You save women. I fund the saving. We make monsters pay. It's our legacy. Our legacy, Aisha repeated, testing the words. She'd gone from having nothing to having everything. Not just money or safety, but purpose. Meaning. The ability to turn her worst pain into someone else's hope. Do you think Zuri would be proud? She asked quietly. If she could see what I'd built from losing her. Jehun's arms tightened around her. I think she'd be honored. I think she'd know her mother loved her enough to make sure her loss meant something. That other babies wouldn't grow up without mothers because those mothers had a place to land when they fell. Aisha cried then, not from sadness, but from relief. From gratitude. From the overwhelming weight of surviving when survival had seemed impossible. Jehun held her through it, the way he always did, his tattooed hands steady and sure. Sarangi, he whispered, meaning I love you. Mo Naifri, she whispered back in Yoruba, meaning I love you too. Outside, Seoul glittered and breathed, a city of 8 million stories, 8 million struggles, 8 million chances to fall or rise. And in a penthouse overlooking it all, two people who'd found each other in darkness chose light. Not because it was easy, not because they were healed, but because they'd learned that survival was just the beginning, and everything that came after was a choice. They chose each other. They chose to fight. They chose to rise. 6 months after that, Aisha received an unexpected visitor at the foundation. Park Seo-yun, Tyrell's ex-fiancée, stood in the lobby, nervously clutching her purse, looking young and lost. Aisha recognized her immediately from the photos. Seo-yun. Mrs. Kong. I'm sorry to come unannounced. I didn't know where else to go. Aisha gestured to her office. Come. Talk to me. In the privacy of her office, Seo-yun broke down. I've been so angry. At him, at myself, at everyone. My father won't speak to me. He blames me for being stupid enough to fall for Tyrell's lies. My friends think I'm pathetic. And I keep thinking, how did I not see it? How was I so blind? Aisha handed her tissues and waited until the tears slowed. You weren't blind. You were human. These men, they're experts. They study us. Learn what we need to hear. Tyrell knew you wanted love. Wanted partnership. So that's what he sold you. But you survived it. You built all this. Seo-yun gestured around the office. How? How do you move past the shame? You don't move past it. You move through it. Aisha leaned forward. The shame isn't yours to carry. It's his. He's the one who lied, who manipulated, who stole. You were just someone who had the courage to love. That's not weakness. It feels like weakness. I know. I felt the same way for years. But weakness is giving up. Weakness is letting him win by staying broken. Aisha's voice was firm but kind. You came here today. That's strength. You're looking for a way forward. That's courage. You're still standing. That's victory. Seo-yun wiped her eyes. Did you ever forgive yourself? For trusting him? Eventually. But first I had to understand that trust isn't stupid, betrayal is. Trust is how humans connect. Betrayal is how broken people destroy. Aisha smiled. I learned to trust again, to love again, to believe that not every man is a monster. It took time. It took work. It took my husband showing me every day that love can be safe. Your husband seems intense. Aisha's laugh was genuine. That's one word for it. He's dangerous, powerful, ruthless when he needs to be. But he's also the safest place I've ever known. Because his strength protects me instead of crushing me. I don't think I'll ever trust anyone again, Seo-yun admitted. You will. Not tomorrow. Maybe not this year. But one day you'll meet someone who earns it. Who proves it. Who shows you that the world isn't all Tyrell's. Aisha reached across the desk and took her hand. And until then, you have us. This foundation. These women. We're your safety net. Seo-yun looked around the office, at the photos of smiling women, at the certificates and awards, at the evidence of survival and rebuilding everywhere. Can I volunteer? She asked suddenly. I don't need your housing or services, but I want to help. I want to do something useful with this anger. Aisha smiled. We always need volunteers. Especially ones who understand what these women are going through. And that's how Park Seo-yun became one of the foundation's most dedicated volunteers, and eventually, its operations director. How one of Tyrell's victims became part of the solution. 2 years after the boutique incident, Aisha stood in front of the newly opened Itaewon branch of the New Dawn Foundation. The building was massive, 5 floors, 100 beds, state-of-the-art facilities for job training, therapy, legal aid, and childcare. Jehun stood beside her, his hand in hers, as they cut the ribbon together. This is number 3, he said quietly. Gangnam, Mapo, now Itaewon. We're next. Busan, Aisha said immediately. Then Daegu. Then Incheon. Eventually, every major city in Korea. Ambitious. I learned from the best. She squeezed his hand. Besides, someone once told me that survival is just the beginning. Everything after is a choice. Smart man. Smart woman, actually. I told myself that. You just helped me believe it. They toured the facility together, Jehun's security team discreetly clearing spaces before they entered, his presence both protective and proud. Women approached Aisha to thank her, to share their stories, to tell her they'd survived because she'd shown them it was possible. In the childcare center, a little girl, maybe 4 years old, ran up to Aisha with a drawing. I made this for you, the girl announced, shoving the paper into Aisha's hands. It was a crayon drawing of a bird, crude but recognizable, rising from orange and red flames. A phoenix, Aisha said, her voice catching. My mommy says you're a phoenix. That you got burned but you didn't die. You flew. The girl beamed. I want to be a phoenix too when I grow up. Aisha knelt down to the girl's level, ignoring the twinge in her old rib injury. You already are. You and your mommy both. You're already flying. After the girl ran off, Jehun helped Aisha stand, his tattooed hand steady in hers. Still worth it? He asked quietly. All the pain, all the struggle, all the work. Aisha looked around the room, at the women learning new skills, at the children playing safely, at the counselors and volunteers and staff who made this sanctuary possible. She thought about Tyrell, still working in Busan with 24 years left on his debt. About the 9 women he'd hurt who'd become friends, a support network for each other. About Seo-yun, who'd transformed her anger into purpose. About Yuki, the scared pregnant girl from 6 months ago, who was now training to be a peer counselor. Worth it. Aisha turned to look at her husband. This dangerous man who'd chosen to use his power to protect instead of destroy, who loved her with a ferocity that still took her breath away. Jihun, it's everything. This is what Zuri's life meant. This is what my pain bought. This is what we built from ashes. Jihun pulled her close, his phoenix tattoo visible above his collar, matching the one hidden beneath her dress. Then we keep building. Forever, Aisha agreed. And they did. Years later, the New Dawn Foundation would operate in 17 cities across Korea, helping thousands of women rebuild their lives after financial abuse. Aisha would become an internationally recognized advocate, speaking at the UN about economic violence against women. Jihun would legitimize more of his businesses, channeling his empire's profits into the foundation and other charitable causes, though he'd never fully leave his underground kingdom. Park Seo-yun would marry a kind accountant and name her first daughter Aisha. Yuki would graduate with a social work degree and open her own counseling practice. Mina would buy that apartment and put her daughter through university. And Tyrell Washington would finish his debt in 27 years, a different man than the one who'd kicked Aisha on a boutique floor. Not better, necessarily, but quieter. Humbler. Broken in ways that maybe, finally, taught him what he'd done to others. But that night, standing in the Itaewon facility with her husband's arms around her and the evidence of survival everywhere she looked, Aisha didn't think about any of that. She just thought, I'm here. I'm alive. I'm loved. I matter. And that was enough. That was everything. The phoenix had risen, and she was never coming down. If this story touched your heart, I need you to do something for me right now. Hit that like button. Drop a comment telling me what you felt. Did Aisha make the right choice? Would you have done the same? And if you want more stories like this, stories about survival, strength, and love that's worth fighting for, subscribe and turn on that notification bell. The end.